ready to go.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Pamela Lopez-Fettis, Executive Director for Growth Dimensions. We're the economic development arm for Belvedere, Boone County, Illinois. We want to thank you for joining us this afternoon and your time to discuss mitigation prevention and providing business support. Forward Boone County is partnering with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity today to bring you today's forward. And today's webinar is being recorded, so if you missed some of it, we'll hold we'll be able to share this with you. We also have this on Facebook Live. We'll have a Q&A period after the presentation, so feel free to enter your questions into the Q&A feature, and we'll do that following the presentation today. So I'd like to first introduce Forward Boone County. We began this program in April of this year to bring local leaders of organizations together to combat the impacts of COVID-19. These partners understood that we could be stronger together. As you can see from the slide, Forward Boone is comprised of many organizations dedicated to Boone County. Along with these partners, Forward Boone has created an informational website dedicated to bring Boone County's current guidance for businesses as we work through the Restore Illinois phases. First, I want to introduce you to our guest today. Agnes Masnick was named Northern State Line Regional Manager in January 2020 in the Office of Regional Economic Development. Basically, we call these Team Red for the Illinois Department of Commerce. She joined the department in 2015 and served in various roles as operation manager for the business development team and as assistant deputy director for Team Red. She's earned her bachelor's degree from Northern Illinois University and a master's in journalism from Columbia College in Chicago. She's very experienced in government administration, public policy, communication, nonprofit organizations, government affairs, legislative relations, and grassroots organizing. And joining Agnes today and will help out with the Q&A is Michelle Michaels, Senior Account Manager for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Michelle is a senior, in addition to her role, she has been with the state since 1998 and joined DCEO in 2002. I'm sorry, I had the pleasure of working with Michelle and now Agnes. Both are great teams, and we're very fortunate to have us here. I would say that they're two of the best experts in our region. So thank you so much, and we welcome Agnes. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for hosting. It's so great that Forward Boone, we meet on a regular basis. I think that having the opportunity to coordinate with all the stakeholders in the community and the county has been a tremendous help for Michelle and myself. So thank you. I know that, we're taking a little bit different approach today with broadcasting on Facebook Live. So if you're new to Forward Boone, or, if you're new to meeting the Illinois Department of Commerce, welcome. This is definitely a place that might help answer some questions that you've had, or hopefully, or just a place to learn a little bit more about what our plans are to move forward. So today we're charged to talk about Restore Illinois, and it's Governor Pritzker's 5-year plan to reopen, and really we're guiding this plan through health metrics. And so some of this might be information you've heard in the past, but I promise we will make sure we get to the Tier 2 resurgence information. So each of us, we currently have, it's 5 different phases. We are currently in the Restore Phase 4, and then we are in the Resurgence Mitigation Tier 2. So really, we've developed these stages just really trying to provide information on how we can work with the Department of Public Health to provide safety and guidelines to our community. So really this is based on regional health, availability, the impact of COVID per the region, and our hospital capacity, and depending on our movement between phases is dependent on our health metrics, and we'll dive into that a little more. We do, work closely with the Department of Public Health, and I know that they've been the primary resource, to helping get that information out, and I think that they should be. And here at the Department of Commerce, we're here to try to provide businesses the tools to make sure that you are, informed with how you can best provide this to your clients, but also to your employees. So we've recently made adjustments, and you probably have become familiar with our Restore plan. We have divided the state into 11 public health regions, and this is to help us better identify emergency response and really tailor to your local community's needs. And then we do have a few websites. The one that we will be referencing most today is DCEO COVID-19 resources.com /restore /Illinois. And I know that was a mouthful, so I'm sure Forward Boone will get that into the chat box. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are in phase 4 revitalization phase. All of the guidelines are provided on our website, and really just making sure that each set of the guidelines, they have common what is expected amongst all the employers and the type of activities and workplace programs, so all of these plans are based on industries and categories, and what we do is we provide the resources to make it as simple as possible for the industry that you're in, and that is outlined on our website in different toolkits. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, the business toolkit, phase 4 does have a business toolkit for many categories and what is permitted for business operation and activities. And what I think is most beneficial to our business community is that we've developed signage that is very easy to understand. We have training checklists for your staff and other resources outlined as well. Next slide, please. So in July, we have developed the Resurgence plan, and that's in concert with the new mitigations that have been applied to our current region, Region 1. And the mitigations are an adaptation, or it's a restriction of certain high-risk activity settings. And what has been identified in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 is the settings of bars and restaurants and meeting and event spaces and other areas where there is close contact settings. And what else is addressed is if a sustained increase in the health metrics are continually observed, we are, provided further mitigations that could be added to what we talk about today. Next slide, please. So I know that much of this, how we hear about these, the resurgence mitigations and how the region can become more restrictive. I know that we look at the sustained increase in a 7-day rolling average. So 7 out of 10 days of when the positivity rates have and what they are reported. So if we sustain a 7-day increase in the hospital admissions for COVID-like illnesses, or if there's a reduction in hospital capacity, so when we're talking about an increase in positivity rates, this is the type of information that the Department of Public Health and our leadership is looking at. Okay, next slide, please. So we've been asked to talk about a couple of different categories today, and we'll first go into bars and restaurants. And just know that, you know, if you were familiar with Tier 1, we're going to address Tier 1 and then what is new with adding Tier 2 to the mix. So Tier 1 for bars included bars and restaurants closing at 11 p.m. and may reopen no earlier than 6 a.m. the following day. Recommended was no indoor service. All patrons should be seated at tables outside, and no ordering, seating, or congregating at bars. Tables should be 6 feet apart. No standing or congregating indoors or outdoors while waiting for a table or exiting. No dancing or standing indoors. And reservations are required for each party. And no seating of multiple parties at one table outdoors. So Tier 2 really just, the addition is reducing the party size from 10 to 6 people. Next slide, please. And as for restaurants, very similar to what we just talked about, all restaurants close at 11 p.m. and may reopen no earlier than 6 a.m. the following day. No indoor dining service or bar service. Tables should be 6 feet apart. No standing or congregating indoors or outdoors while waiting for a table or exiting. Trying to maintain that space between groups. No seating of multiple parties at one table. And as mentioned in the previous slide, party size reduces from 10 to 6 in the Tier 2 mitigation. Next slide, please. So the second category that we were asked to talk about today was for meetings, social events, gatherings, weddings, funerals, other types of social events. We highlighted potlucks here. So Tier 1, we did limit the lesser of 25 guests or 25% of the overall room capacity, both for indoors and outdoors. No party buses. Gaming and casinos close at 11 p.m. and are limited to 25% of capacity, and following mitigation for bars and restaurants if applicable. So making sure that, you know, if one of your meeting or social event spaces has that food component or that bar component, that you're also following that criteria that we just talked about in the previous slides. Tier 2, now that we're in Tier 2, maximum indoor and outdoor gathering size is 10. And we're saying that this is not applicable to students participating in in-person classroom learning. I know each school district is a little different, so that definitely was highlighted there, so thank you. Next slide, please. And I know that we've had some questions on organized groups and recreational activities and gyms. So Tier 1, all sports and sport guidance was effective August 15th and remains in effect. Sports guidance was provided in that link that we have listed. Outdoors activities, and then it does not include the previous exposure settings continuing per DCEO guidance. And we talk about how we follow the Department of Public Health and how they are tracking the positivity rate in the different regions. So that was for Tier 1. And the additional mitigations now under Tier 2, we're maintaining lesser of 25 people or 25% of capacity for both indoors and outdoors, and then groups limited to 10 or fewer for organized groups. Next slide, please. So I know that we're currently on day 16 of the Tier 2 mitigation. And, you know, we are continuing to work with the Department of Public Health in Boone County. I know that, you know, we're continuing to, you know, follow the guidelines and making sure that, you know, we're enforcing the hand washing and wearing the masks. but we will work and make sure that we're continuing to track the positivity rate in the regions, and really looking at the mitigation over a 14-day monitoring period. You know, we do know as nationwide positivity rates are increasing, and you know, we just definitely, you know, working together to reduce the positivity rate in our area. And I don't know, Michelle, am I missing anything that?
Agnes, I think you did a great job, and you did a great job on your PowerPoint, and maybe we could start opening up for questions.
Pam, we'll turn it back over to you. Oh, my last slide, thank you.
So thank you very much. That was really informative. You know, one of the questions that I think that pops out to me is that you had talked about meetings, social events, and gatherings, including weddings and funerals and potlucks, that in Tier 2, the maximum indoor-outdoor gathering size is 10. Yet with organized group recreational activities and gyms, the maximum is lesser of 25 people or 25% of capacity. There are some businesses, events, activities that they're not exactly sure where they fit. For instance, you know, you just had, we have a venue where we can go apple picking, or you can go to an orchard, you can go pumpkin patches. Where do they fall?
So I think those would fall under organized group recreational activities. So if you're going to the pumpkin patch, and the pumpkin patch or apple picking would be 25 people or 25% of capacity. So I think in that situation, you'd want to try to have them limit the groups to 10 or fewer people, you know, hopefully the family pod, and have them go picking with the limit of 20, because I'm sure an apple orchard or a pumpkin patch, the capacity of using the 1,000 foot is never, you know, you're going to get way over 25 people. So it would seem to me that they would have 2 groups go out in groups of 10, or 5 groups go out in groups of 5, sticking to that 25 people. And then when the first 5 come out, the next 5 go in.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Pam?
Yeah, so basically keeping them in pods that are 10 or less, but you can have a maximum of 25 total and have them flow, and basically as people leave. Now, is that different for stores, or, you know, regardless of their size?
Correct. In Tier 1 and in Tier 2, the retail is not affected. We don't go until, God forbid, Tier 3, where retail is affected. And then we also have the winter sports guidance, the sports guidelines that were just released. And that has some differences for spectators of sports as well. And I'm trying to see if there's a date on here. We'll make sure, Pam, that this gets in your hands as well. I don't see a date on this, but the sports activities, we've had 2 different releases of those. And this is the winter updates to all sports policy that was released earlier this summer.
Okay, wonderful.
So Michelle, I think it was released as of October 27th. The winter sports was updated on the website that was put into the chat.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. We do have a few questions that came in through Facebook. What if the fitness centers also has an organized event, such as the YMCA? Where do they fall?
So when it comes to gymnasiums, fitness centers are not impacted by Tier 1 or Tier 2 mitigation. The sports guidelines have capacity limits for spectators that are different. And the spectators for gatherings in Tier 2, when located in a region under Tier 2 or more restrictive mitigation efforts per the Restore Illinois guidelines, no spectators are allowed, whether indoors or outdoors. But then if we go to our other explanation, so again, we would go back to the maintain the lesser of 25 people or 25% of capacity indoors and outdoors, and groups limited to 10 or fewer. So groups might mean, something that's an organized recreational activity. So if you're doing something like that, it would be the instructor and 9 others.
Okay. So let's say a fitness center, I see under Tier 2 for organized group and recreational activities, it says this does not apply to fitness centers or workout facilities. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I know there's been a lot of confusion with that, and we got clarification from our legal office today for your call, Pam, just to make sure we were articulating it appropriately.
Okay, so like a Y has different facilities within the Y. They have a childcare center. Those rules might be different than their fitness and workout, correct?
Yes, and that this has been true in all the different tiers that, in all the different mitigations and all the different phases that we've had numerous times. One guideline is not enough. They do have to parcel out this partial for the daycare, this for the gymnasium where there's basketball, this where there's a spin class. So they do have to juggle, and that's where too, if we have individual specifics that are really struggling, Agnes is always available to help with that guidance as well.
Okay. I have another question. Do these restrictions apply to families at holidays?
No, we don't have any restrictions on people's houses.
Okay.
We know, the governor has a press conference at 2:30. The governor and Dr. Ezeki has given advice to people about the upcoming holidays. And I do think, Agnes, correct me if I'm wrong, did the Department of Public Health, didn't they put out some holiday suggestions, guidelines? I'm going there right now.
I've been kind of, just personally observing that social gathering. So, we had a birthday, we were outside, we were social distancing. I tried to limit, the amount of guests that we invited to 10, and that included ourselves, so it was my parents, and my immediate family. And so, I think it definitely is a holiday season will look a lot different than normal. But yeah, we will make sure we share the holiday recommendations.
Yes, the Department of Public Health has issued holiday season safety tips, and they've given travel considerations, overnight guest suggestions, holiday shopping, holiday meals, general considerations to try to do meal serving and dining, food prep. So we'll make sure to get not only the winter updated guidelines to you, but the link also to this, which if you go to the Illinois Department of Public Health, dph.illinois.gov, and you can also do a search for Illinois Department of Public Health Holiday Season Safety Tips for those people who are catching this live on Facebook.
We'll make sure that we link this to Forward Boone as well, so make sure that, so people don't have access to a pen and paper, we'll make sure that you get the information. I do have another question about schools. I know that in Boone County, we do have some schools in session, some that are doing everything virtually, some a combination of both, and then as well as throughout the region. Do any of these restrictions apply to actually education?
I think when it comes to education, it all goes through that website. And I'm going to go there right now.
The
Illinois
State Board
State
of
Board.
Education.
Okay, so those requirements may be different than the ones that we're seeing in front of us.
What I've
So-
heard the governor, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Michelle. No, Michelle, go ahead. Sorry.
What I've heard the governor say over and over and again in the press conferences is that you know there's no two schools that are exactly the same, and that schools are working with their local Department of Public Health, that we couldn't do any of this without their help and their partnership. And I'm looking right now, Agnes has school-age children, so it might ring home to her a little easier than me. While I'm looking for this on the internet, I'll let Agnes finish.
I know we mentioned it really, I've been following, you know, what my local school district has been, their recommendations have been. So I know today's presentation, we were trying to help capture, you know, how do we best provide information, you know, to the business community, get that information from the State Board of Education.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, additional questions at this time. Is there anything that else would you like to share that we haven't maybe covered?
No, I think that, you know, having, you know, the new platform of providing the information on, you know, Facebook Live is an excellent, you know, alternative. You know, I know that you've done a great job of helping our leaders get together and making sure we're providing the most up-to-date information out to the community. So thank you so much. You know, we do have the business interruption grants that the Department of Commerce is helping get the information out to our different profit and nonprofit organizations or businesses. So that still is an available resource to the area. And, you know, that is on the Illinois Department of Commerce's website, the Business Interruption Grant. So if you're not familiar with that opportunity, my email and my phone number are in the slide. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that we appreciate Agnes and Michelle addressing the questions that we had. I feel that having the side-by-side comparison between what was allowed in one versus two and having you answer these questions helps clarify things a little bit more. But I know that there's always going to be circumstances that are going to be something that we didn't think about or maybe didn't think to ask. And appreciate that you provide your information here. For those on the phone, Agnes's phone number is at 312-882-6840 or agnes.nasnik@illinois.gov.
One more thing I wanted to say, you know, if for some reason you are joining by phone and you're not able to physically see the presentation, the Resurgence mitigation, there is a two-sided document, and it does an actual better job of outlaying what we talked about today in the various columns. So it's easier to delineate, you know, the change and what a tier 3 could look like. And it also is available in Spanish, Chinese, and Polish too. So if you have, you know, a family member or a business partner, or you know of someone who, you know, could appreciate the translation, then please, you know, let me know, and I'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Thank you. Excellent. And all this recording will be available on Forward Boone, and we put that information in the chat feature, as well as links to this presentation and resources that Agnes has shared today. Again, thank you, Agnes. We appreciate your support, time today to answer questions. Michelle, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your wisdom and assistance as well. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, this will be available at forwardboone.org, and we look forward to working with you again. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit us.